Hi, welcome back, all of you. In the last lesson, we spoke about the framework in which the well architected framework is created. We spoke about there are four tenets. We have the six pillars, we have different lenses, we have some guidance coming up through the well architected framework, and then we have the tool. So we'll cover a little more about detail about the lenses today, and then we'll go about looking at the tool with some different examples, how to generate a report. We'll do a hands-on with the tool so that you have a complete understanding. As I suggest, you can really spend at least 3 weeks to 4 weeks on this topic on well architected framework because this is your baseline. Whether you want to be an architect, you must know well architected framework really well, even if you're a designer or builder in the new world of work. So, what is well architected lens? Lenses is nothing but a set of best practices, questions, and recommendation for a specific workload type. So imagine you have six pillars: operation excellence, security, reliability, performance, sustainability. Okay, these six pillars are basically very generic in nature. Imagine you go and walk in into a customer who is building something like an IoT kind of a setup project. Now, these engineers on the ground are very seasoned and they know how what they're working on Raspberry Pi, Arduino, connecting devices, doing analytics. Now, here you're talking about a domain called IoT, and there is an analytical area on this because they're doing analytics from the devices, what data is coming out, etc. So these two are very specialized area. So when you are trying to be an architect here, you first run the six pillars: high level security, high level operation excellence on the project. And then you have to go very deep into understanding what a deeper question I can ask. That is where the lenses comes in. So what the purpose of the well architected lenses is to get some special compliance on the workload, advanced scaling, maybe some industry standard which you're trying to use. It is also lenses are also available for a specific industry, and you could also use it for unique operational patterns. What are some of the very before we see hands-on, just to give you a perspective, there is a lens called serverless lenses. Imagine you're trying to have a project in which you're building serverless. You might be aware that you use Lambda, you'll use EventBridge, you'll use DynamoDB, but you may not know how exactly I can architect these kind of solutions, right? So these best practices for Lambda, API Gateway, EventBridge, DynamoDB, step functions, how you do an event-driven design, how do you do cold starts, how you do retires and resiliency, all this you can do by using the serverless lenses. If you're not doing it, these questions will trigger those concepts like, are you doing this? If you tell yes, then it's really good. You can improve it. If you tell no, you'll be able to use the tool and tell what part, how you actually can go and build that. Okay. Similarly, we have the software as service lenses, SaaS lenses for multi-tenant SaaS applications. Maybe you can do something like tenant isolation, you can do onboarding automation, you could do data partitioning, etc. My favorite area like ML, if you use machine learning lenses, for example, if you're using SageMaker, an AI service, you could use this ML lens for data preparation, model training pipelines, feature store, etc. Similarly, for data analytics, if you're using optimized storage layers, ELT design, etc. Okay, like that, it goes for every workload, maybe IoT. And then, even if you are going for an industry, for example, if you're working on a financial service industry, on fintechs or a banks or insurance, the regulatory compliance, are you following it? Is the data residency getting followed? Threat detection, is it getting followed? All this comes under the FSI lenses. So you have lenses for high performance computing, for SAP, for streaming media, for startup lenses, container lenses. Okay. And imagine this is a very important topic for us to really know. So let's look at an example here. So if I go back to my screen here, you will see that I go back to the same page which is started. We will see a demo of these, how to use it practically in the next lesson. But at this point, remain focused. Just a quick recap. Every project which comes to you, imagine it's like a house foundation. You cannot build your building without the foundation. It means every project has to be reviewed for the six pillars. Okay. The more you read this literature of 1,000 pages, the better you will be. Do not get overwhelmed by generative AIs doing automation, autonomous augmentation. These are superior knowledge. The more you read, the better. Every project will require you to think with the six hats. Okay. Understand them in deep if you want to be an ace architect. Certification is one of the ways to really look at, but I would suggest if you're a good architect, you'll be able to produce any diagrams. You should know, can I reuse something quickly for my project? Okay. And you should be familiar to get overall 230 plus services. Do you know all the services so that you know what to put for which project? The last but not the least is you know well architected framework really, really well. Okay. So these are six pillars. And today's topic, we're looking at lenses. Now imagine you can also create your, suppose you're working with a company or you're a partner and you feel that you have some best practices, you can create your own XML file, and then maybe you can upload it. You can create custom lenses. You can use lenses given by AWS. There are a lot of GitHubs available. So, for example, if I go and tell GitHub for AWS lenses, right? So you'll see that it will show you a lot of these custom lens which you can also download. Like you have AWS Passport, ECS, S3, Document DB. So what it means is you have quite good flexibility. Now, how do you use this? You have to know the tool. The understanding here is every time you're working in a company, okay, a project comes and you start really planning your functional requirement. The other side is you plan the designing and looking at whether there are any reusable component. Finally, it will come out like what I'm doing, is it right? How do I validate that? That is where the well architected framework comes. It gives you a lot of best practices for high level six pillars. Plus, it tries to bring in for your project which domain are you trying to operate and what are some of the questions you should ask. So lenses can be divided into standard lenses, which are provided by AWS. Just use them in your project, download the XML file or the file. For example, if I go to the GitHub, if I go into this, you will find that it provides you the JSON file, which is available. You can just download this JSON file and load it in the tool. We'll look at it in a while from now. So then you see that these lenses are extremely important. Let's explore one lens called machine learning lenses. Imagine you got a project from your customers, which is about doing a kind of creating a model for a customer management, and then you want to create that model, and then you want to really create an endpoint and create some reporting for it. That's a specific requirement. You're using SageMaker and etc. So you would do it in your way, right? Basically, you understand hands-on. You went through a training. You start building it. We really don't know whether what you're doing follows the design standards. Okay, but you know from your experience with AWS that I am doing the right networking, I'm doing the correct way of costing, I'm doing a correct way of reliability, etc. So that's where the machine learning lens. This is a continuously updated documents. You can see it has been updated up to November 19, 2025. It's as recent as this month. So coming back here, first it explains to you, and then it will just give you all the different components which you can look at. So let me download this PDF to just show you the depth of this document. So this is around a 370 page document. Imagine to just cover up one workload. Suppose you want to call yourself the SME or a master in your machine learning, you must have understood the design principle of how well you can do an ML. And again, this is the starting point based on the customer's complex, heterogeneous, multiple systems you might want to bring up, like that it could be systems which where how do you connect to them, integration techniques, etc. So if you go to machine learning lens, first there's a kind of a summary, and if you really look at it, this is so detailed about how do you design a systems for ML. So if you really go through it, there's an introduction, uh, there's a, and it just talks about how it's different from Gen AI. There's no rocket science. The projects might coincide, they might work together, but how is it different? It's been mentioned. And then it talks about the design principle of a well architected principle of machine learning. Now, imagine what is listed here is nothing to do with the six standard principle, because the six standard principles is for all workloads. This is for ML workload. Now you might ask a question, what if my project has got machine learning plus analytics plus Gen AI? You must download all the three PDF files and ask all those questions which is relevant for the project. So that cannot be a kind of a master document for you, because you all of us understand the practical world is customer drives us, customer centricity, customer obsession. Customer brings a requirement, we work backwards and see what is the best solution we can create. Okay, so this is nothing but your machine learning design principles on lenses. It talks about the life cycle, and if you go like, it talks about what is each. Okay, it's a very practical way of learning the subject also, in case you're looking at specializing yourself on the machine learning after you finish off your base of foundation plus finish your essay solution architect exam. This can be a good documentation to tell you that you're a person who really understands machine learning. Ultimately, what I wanted to share in this lesson is about, you have six pillars, augment with based on the project. For example, if you're doing a migration project, go for a migration lens, so that you don't have to break your head, what question should I ask my customer for a migration, and you don't have to use all the questions which is given by lenses and thing. You can skip it, you can use it part of it, etc. So now let's look at, to summarize this in such a way that you can easily understand. Okay. So when I tell summarize, what do you mean by summarization? What that means only this, that uh, life of a architect. What do you do? You will first look at a requirement which could come from your leaders or a pre-sales person into your project delivery heads, right? You've been given a project specs. Once the project specs comes, the architect is a person who has an overall connecting the dots thinking. You might see the project and get with a cool high level view about how you can do this. Okay, and in today's world you might use a generative AI to generate the high level diagrams, etc., etc. Okay, leave that aside. The first thing an architect can do is, after he reads the script of the high level requirement, he can think about looking at what components can be used to really build it, look at feasibility, look at reusable solutions, look at whether any other customer is doing it, and then he start designing some diagrams. And then, to be sure that he's going to do a great job of this project, he will come to well architect framework, apply and tell how you should really design it apart from functional requirement, which is a big thing to do. We're not talking about that on from a builder perspective. More thinking about like an architect or a designer, you will be looking at the six pillars and then look at which lenses of this is useful for the project. And when you put these questions together, not all these questions, when I tell, what do you mean by questions? Questions means you're reviewing a project, or you're proactively asking the right design principles into a project. So will I know all this? That is what is a handicap, right? So AWS has given you an easy way by which you can download all these documents, look at what right question should I ask, and then use the tool as a way to ask the questions. The tool is standardized. If you use the tool anywhere in the geography you're traveling, the well architected framework tool, which I just showed you, this tool is a standardized tools which you can use. With that, we just want to summarize lenses matters. Okay. It will apply best practices to a specific workload. It will reduce architectural risk. It will right size the performance. It will align with industry framework. It will definitely accelerate the cloud adoptions. Thanks for watching. We'll again meet you in the next lesson.